Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I have two guests. You can hear them. We've got Boris and Autumn. There they go. They don't know who I'm talking to, so they're barking a little bit. And hopefully they'll settle down here so I can stop having to keep hitting record and then stop and go back and start again. So we'll see what happens. All right. So our writing prompt for our listener challenge today is reflect on how reciting the Serenity Prayer daily has impacted your emotional well-being. And today I want to talk about how people don't change. At least that's what I used to think. I used to think that people didn't change until I changed. And I wanted to talk about how I did that. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today was because I heard in my morning meeting that faith and obedience drives change. And I thought, so what you're telling me is by having an unchanging, unwavering commitment to a program for life, we can change. So by not changing, we change. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I think it might help in my stroke recovery and my vestibular therapy that I'm going through right now. So before I got sober, I was adamant that people did not change. And I would say that to everybody, I'm just like, once somebody, you recognize that somebody is one way, that's it. It's never going to be any different. And I was so very wrong. My sobriety itself has taught me about the impact of faith and obedience driving personal change. So by embracing consistency and a daily regimen, I witnessed what I thought was impossible in myself. And that is that I changed. I changed in every possible way. So I want to explore about how these principles that I did embrace and this regimen can be equally transformative in stroke recovery and vestibular therapy. So one of the dogs has laid down and the bulldog is now kind of walking around trying to figure out what he's going to do. He'll probably come up and show himself in the camera here in a minute. That's what I'm guessing. We'll see. Okay, so the foundations of change. So change for me had to start with surrender. And if you recall, when I first started this stroke recovery about 9 months ago, I sat on my front stoop and I thought, here he is. Let's see, there he is. There he is. Hi, Boris. Hi, Boris. Okay, let's see if he can go lay down. So sorry if you're not watching the camera and you're just listening. This is probably very distracting to you, but oh well, maybe you'll start watching the video. Okay. I was saying, as you recall, when I was sitting on my front porch at the beginning of this 9-month period that I've been focused on stroke recovery, I made a decision that something was going to have to change in order to change, right? Something had to change to change. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So I made a decision to surrender to what was going on, and I needed to then find faith at that point. And the faith is what bridged the gap between what I used to know and the unknown that was ahead of me. So in sobriety, faith, whether it be in a higher power, whether it be in myself, in my program, in my fellowship, or in the process, is that guiding light that keeps me going in the direction of change. It's what gives me the courage to take just one more step. So, coupled with obedience to a structured recovery plan, this faith sets the stage for transformation. And it is that daily commitment. It had to be a daily commitment. Um, and that is really what carved the path forward for me. So applying faith and obedience in stroke recovery and vestibular therapy, um, I'm certain that will have the same effect for me. So I wanted to talk about that. So starting off with embracing the process, that's where the faith was requested of me. When I went to the vestibular therapist, she said, just trust the process, have faith in the process. And just as in sobriety, stroke recovery and vestibular therapy demand that kind of acceptance of the process. Faith in the therapy plan, faith in the professionals that are guiding me, trusting that each step is a step towards recovery. I have really been challenged by this. Um, I am challenged even just today with this because of course I am. When I approach all these different people in the medical field, and I have yet to have one that truly understands my symptoms and what I'm feeling, then I lose faith. I lose faith in a plan. So this is what happened today. I I went to my vestibular therapist, and I'm feeling pretty good because I've got my fancy new glasses, my vestibular migraine glasses. And so when I got to therapy, um, I felt better than I normally do when I get there. Usually I'm at about a 6, and I have to just sit in the waiting room and keep my eyes closed, and it'll come down to about a 4 or a 5. Like I'm usually just teetering around where I need to be in order to even have therapy. And so we did some new exercises today, and she gave me homework. And so one of the things that she's been having me do is bring back an activity that I had been avoiding. So the first week was, what was the first week? Oh, getting my coffee and taking the coffee pod out of, like, it's around a corner. So I was just feeling my way to the coffee pod and then putting it down and not moving my eyes, kind of like I'm doing right now. Um, and she said, I want you to start actually looking. So I look around the corner at where the coffee pod is, and I follow my hand and put it in the coffee machine. So I do that now. And it's fine. I mean, it's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like moving my eyes because it just doesn't feel good to move my eyes. So, but I'm doing it because I'm having faith in the process. And then last week, the what I needed to do was keep my eyes open while I brush my teeth. And so I'm doing that. It's fine. I don't want to, but I'm doing it anyway. So this week, she said, when you're in the car, I want you to keep your eyes open while you're in your neighborhood, not on the main roads, but in your neighborhood. So I was like, okay, it's going to be terrible. Um, and I said, but I'm just going to do whatever you tell me to do. So on the way home, I had my eyes shut until we got into the neighborhood. And then I opened my eyes and it's fine while it's happening. You know, I'm focused on something in the distance, like she told me to. And while it's happening, so I probably had my eyes open for about maybe 3 minutes in the car, something like that. And nothing, you know, my symptoms don't just happen like that when I'm doing something that hurts my head. I have to do it, and then it takes a few minutes for the symptoms to catch on. So by the time I got home, I was about at a 5. And then I let my dogs out. And then I was about at a 6. Then I made myself some dinner and I was at a 7. And then by the time I ate, I was at an 8. I had brain fog and I still feel the same way. Um, so, what that means to me is that she doesn't understand the severity of the problem. That's what it means to me. And that doesn't mean I'm going to not do what she tells me to do. I think what I'll do is just open my eyes on my one road right here out of my driveway. That's it. So the next time I go in the car, which doesn't happen very often because of this, I will just open my eyes for this one road where the car doesn't go any faster than 10 miles an hour, I think. So that's what I'm going to do next. But it does that experience, you know, I ended up laying down for an hour and a half and I just fell asleep like that because my brain is just overwhelmed. It feels like I hit my head. Like it feels like somebody shook my head and it's really sensitive. Um, so I laid down and I just fell asleep for about an hour and a half, and it still feels the same way. So that's unfortunate. And it makes me feel kind of frustrated. Um, but you know, whatever I have to do, I guess she's figuring it out as we go. So I think my point is that having faith in the process is not simple. Um, when I was in, when I entered into sobriety, you know, I had faith that because I saw everybody else living without alcohol, I had faith that I was going to be able to live like them. And eventually, I got to the point where I could be happy, not think about alcohol, and it's still happening for me. But during that time, that first year, and even on my first year anniversary, I had times that I was thinking about drinking. So I had to rejuvenate, you know, revive that faith that okay, it worked this long. um, don't lose your faith because you struggle. And I think that is the key for me to remember today as I settle down for the evening and lay down for bed. Don't let this one occurrence discourage me. Faith in the process is faith in the long-term process. Recovery is long-term. I don't just claim to have faith, um, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or I'm going to have faith, until it hurts too bad or something. I need to trust that each step, no matter how big or small, is working towards recovery. Next is having this consistent regimen. So the success of recovery absolutely lies in consistency. So establishing a routine, which is what I did in sobriety. I went to the same AA meetings. I um, did my same prayers, and I always talk about um, my habits that I've created before I go to bed, because these help, they bring me to a home, like they give me a home base that's comfortable for me. So if I continue to have this consistent regimen for vestibular therapy and stroke recovery, it still provides me with that framework for progress, and the daily discipline, the obedience to that regimen is what is going to foster change. Next is overcoming, like I was just talking about, doubt with faith. So doubt and frustration are going to be pretty common, I'm sure, throughout this process. And the only way that I'm going to be able to propel myself forward is when I have a setback like I have today, that I pause and reflect on it. Because if I let that story that's being written, that storybook that's written in my head every single day, if I let that storybook, all those pages, get written while I'm discouraged, um, I don't know how easy it's going to be for me to get back into faith. So I have to pause, maybe even journal, talk about it in my podcast, and say, you know what, it's normal. Just sitting down with you and talking about how, this happened to me when I was getting sober. Every day wasn't easy. So, in this vestibular therapy, this stroke recovery, it's going to be the same thing. Every day isn't going to be easy. And there's going to be some days that are painful. It just so happens that today is physical pain. I've been talking a lot about emotional pain over the past 9 months, and during this time that I'm getting revved up with therapy and exploring what exercises cause my pain, which ones I need to pull back and do more slowly. I'm going to have pain, but it's going to get better if I just continue to have faith. So, okay, so learning through the obedience. Recovery requires me to follow guidance, even if it may not make sense to me. So this is what I did. she asked me to open my eyes in the car, and it is an exercise in humility and obedience to listen to what she says. She is designing the plan for my therapy with my best interests at heart. And even though I may not think it's a good idea, I think it is worth exploring so that we know now I can't keep my eyes open for 3 minutes. Maybe I go all the way back to 15 seconds, you know? Maybe I have to just start really, really small. But this obedience, much like following the steps in sobriety, is it's going to require a lot of patience. And so it will teach me patience. It's going to teach me resilience, and I'll, you know, as we shift according to my pain, I will learn how to trust even more the process. So once I'm able to see how what I did today is going to help me grow, I'll trust even more. So let's take a break and look at the pooches that are barking. There they are. Okay, I think we're all right again. So, so the change is going to be slow, but it's deliberate, right? And these principles of faith and obedience are going to teach me that change is in the actions that I take and the mindset which I approach my recovery. Consistency in my efforts is going to breed transformation, and faith in the journey is going to eventually alleviate that weight of uncertainty that I feel. And then obedience to this proven path. You know, she's done this before. I'm not the only person in the world. She told me I'm not the only person in the world who's dealt with these symptoms. So obedience to this proven path is offering me a roadmap to progress. So this belief that people can't change. What does this have to do with the fact that people can't change? You know, everything that I'm doing since I got sober is challenging this idea that people don't change. And I have been disproving my own theory for almost 8 years now. I've also listened to countless stories of recovery, proving that people do change. Not only does the patient, the stroke survivor, change, but the entire support system around that person changes as well in order to support what needs to happen. Um, and that, but that can only happen with faith and obedience, together as a family unit, as a couple. So, in applying these principles of faith and obedience to stroke recovery and vestibular therapy, I want to acknowledge that these are not just strategies for overcoming alcoholism, but they are fundamental truths about the human capacity for change. You know, I think that by carrying forward these lessons that I learned getting sober and embracing a new regimen and consistency, it's going to be it's going to lay the groundwork for change to take root and flourish yet again in my life. So I've already paved the way for knowing that I have an extreme capability to change in my life, and I'm doing it again. I just have to do it again. And with all the steps that I take each day, I need to focus on the idea that these are guided by faith and obedience. So I'm going to keep moving forward one step at a time, just like I did in sobriety. Thanks for joining me today on the Recovery Daily podcast. Let's say goodbye to Boris. Goodbye, Bobo. And Autumn. She is still giving herself a bath, as it were. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.